Tony worked as a guard in an upscale nightclub and his boss valued him. He could handle trouble. Besides strong fighting skills, he knew how to deal with people. When an important guest arrived, the guest asked a hostess to guard his hat. Tony bribed her and took it. Soon the owner realized it was missing. He became furious and threatened to burn the place down. Tony pretended to find it and returned it. The owner liked him. Tony always survived. Violence did not always help. One day, while handling troublemakers, Tony went too far. Because of excessive force, the nightclub closed for 2 months and he lost his job. Even while unemployed, Tony held on to racial pride. When 2 black technicians came to his house, his wife served them drinks politely. Instead of being grateful, Tony felt disgusted. After they left, he threw away the glasses. This behavior was still common in America before the 1960s. But for Tony, being white could not pay the bills. With a family to support, he even joined an eating contest. His opponent finished 24 hot dogs. When his wife found out, she was confused but still happy. The $50 prize covered next month's rent, but it was not a long-term solution. Tony could earn money through mafia contacts, but he did not want to risk prison. One day, his friend called and said a pianist needed a driver. When Tony arrived, he was surprised to see a place that looked like a palace. When the employer appeared in elegant clothing, Tony was even more surprised. The employer was a black man. Seeing Shirley sit upright like a nobleman made Tony uneasy. Shirley explained his needs. Tony did not want to lose the chance, so he improvised to sound convincing. No one would refuse $100 per week. But the job was different. Shirley had to tour the South for 2 months and return at Christmas. The South was known for harsh racial discrimination. Hearing this, Tony stood up to leave. Because of his reputation, he insisted on $125 per week. Shirley escorted him out politely. Tony regretted losing the job. But the next day, Shirley called again. He agreed to Tony's request and even asked Tony's wife for her opinion. Both were moved by Shirley's sincerity. Although it was hard to be apart, they needed the money. Before the trip, the manager paid half the salary in advance and gave Tony a green book. It listed hotels, stores, and restaurants that served black customers. After everything was ready, Tony said goodbye to his wife. She prepared sandwiches and asked him to promise he would return by Christmas. Then the unlikely pair, a black pianist and a white driver, began a journey that would shape their lives. On the road, Shirley repeated several rules. Tony took notes but drove casually. He smoked, ate, and talked non-stop, which irritated Shirley. Tony also felt uneasy. When he stopped to pee, he returned to grab his wallet, showing he did not trust Shirley. Both doubted the partnership. At the hotel, the 2 musicians went out to have fun. Shirley sat alone on the balcony with a drink. Before performing, Shirley told Tony to watch his language because he would be introduced as a guest. Tony stayed by the door. Shirley said nothing and went in alone. From the introduction, Tony finally learned who Shirley was. Shirley looked as if a light shone on him. It changed Tony's view of black people. He even felt proud. After the show, Shirley found Tony gambling with a group of black men. Shirley became angry, but Tony did not understand why. That night, Tony wrote to his wife about Shirley, who seemed to shine. He called him a genius. Their conversations grew warmer. When passing a small shop, Tony stopped to buy cigarettes and noticed a jade stone. One piece fell. Tony picked it up without the shopkeeper noticing, but the musicians saw it and told Shirley. Shirley considered it stealing. Tony insisted he was innocent. He returned the stone angrily and kept driving. At the next tour location, Tony saw the piano prepared for Shirley was not a Steinway and was full of trash. He scolded the staff, but they dismissed him. Tony used force and got what he wanted. He kept writing letters while Shirley looked at them like scribbles. The journey continued and they talked more. They discussed family. Shirley once had siblings and a wife. He lost them because he focused too much on music. They reached Kentucky and Tony was excited because it was the home of KFC. He bought a large box and wanted to share it with Shirley. With Tony's encouragement, Shirley tasted fried chicken for the first time. After one piece, Tony gave him another. Shirley looked confused because he did not know how to handle the bone. Tony showed him. Proud of himself, Tony threw his drink container out the window. Shirley's expression changed. Tony had to retrieve the trash. The farther they went south, the stronger the discrimination became. Shirley could stay only in motels listed in the Green Book. Tony stayed across the street. Shirley still felt out of place. When he sat alone, a group of black men invited him to play basketball. Shirley refused and they mocked him. That night Tony heard loud knocking. Shirley was in trouble. When Tony arrived, several white men had surrounded him. His face was bruised. Tony yelled at them. One man pointed a gun, but none wanted a shootout. After getting Shirley out, Tony said he should not go to bars alone. But Shirley knew that even in northern bars, he was never safe. Tony helped him back. The next day, Shirley performed as usual. They continued until the car broke down. While waiting, Shirley stepped outside. Not far away, black workers labored in a field. They were separated only by a low fence, yet it felt like different worlds. Shirley panicked and returned to the car. At the next stop, the plantation owner welcomed them politely. But when the meal was served, they brought a huge plate of fried chicken. It was an insult, but Shirley endured it. During the intermission, Shirley wanted to use the restroom, but the owner said he could use only the outdoor toilet. Shirley wanted to return to the hotel to use a proper facility. Tony did not understand but drove him back. Shirley returned while chatting and laughing. Tony felt admiration. He still didn't understand what this southern tour meant for Shirley or for any black person. It was time to write another letter to his wife. Seeing the misspellings and messy writing, Shirley couldn't stand it and taught Tony how to write properly. Tony's wife was deeply moved. After Tony finished writing, they passed a suit shop. Shirley saw a suit he liked. Tony took him inside. The owner handed the suit to Tony, but when Tony gave it to Shirley, the owner's attitude changed. He insisted Shirley buy it before trying it on. Shirley felt insulted. He had faced discrimination many times. He sought comfort at the piano. That night, the police called Tony. Shirley had been arrested in a humiliating situation with a white man. The officers admitted they set him up. Tony had to bribe the police to release him. Tony thought Shirley had been careless. Shirley, ashamed, didn't thank him. Tony got angry and left. Shirley regretted it. At the next stop, Tony met Italian friends who mocked him for serving a black man. They offered him another job. Tony didn't answer. He didn't know Shirley understood Italian. In his room, Shirley used chalk to cover his wounds and shame. Soon after, Tony found Shirley waiting at his door, helpless and scared. Tony's friend wanted to promote him, but Tony refused. Tony apologized. They grew closer. Tony helped Shirley respond politely to discrimination. Shirley's performances improved. Tony's letters became more touching. Before Christmas, they were stopped by police in heavy rain. Local laws banned black people from being outside after sunset. They forced Shirley out of the car and mocked Tony. Tony punched one of them. Both were jailed. Shirley called his lawyer, then scolded Tony for using violence. Moments later, the police chief received a call from the governor. Terrified, he released them. Shirley had called the president's brother. Tony felt proud. Shirley felt ashamed. Tony said hurtful things. They argued. Shirley left the car and walked into the rain, finally showing his pain. Tony stayed silent. At the hotel for black guests, Tony stayed with Shirley. Tony wrote his last letter before the final show. Shirley wanted to help, but Tony said he could handle it. Tony thanked Shirley and suggested writing to his brother. Shirley refused. Tony said many people feared taking the first step. Shirley stayed quiet. At the final venue, Shirley was given a storage room. He accepted it. Tony waited with the musicians and finally understood why Shirley kept enduring everything. 6 years had passed. Shirley still pushed forward. When he entered the restaurant, a server stopped him. Black people were banned. Tony tried to help, but the manager refused. He offered to send food to the room. Tony stayed calm and tried to reassure Shirley. They had changed each other. The manager tried to bribe Tony to persuade Shirley. Shirley asked Tony's opinion. Tony simply let him out. They went to a black bar. The stairs were now for Tony. Shirley suddenly felt inspired and performed. Despite the small bar and old piano, he received the loudest applause. The final stop ended well. Shirley played for himself and people like him. He had taken his first step. He chose to return immediately so they could reach New York before Christmas. Tony remembered his promise. Tony soon noticed they were being followed. He fired 2 shots into the air. They continued driving, but snow blocked the road. That night, police stopped them again, but only to warn them. There was discrimination in the world, but there was friendship too. Shirley kept moving forward. With the officers' help, Tony changed the tire. Snow made driving difficult. Tony wanted to stop at a hotel. Shirley wanted to keep going. Soon they reached New York. Shirley drove while Tony slept. At Tony's house, Shirley woke him. Tony wanted to invite him in, but Shirley returned home, where people welcomed him warmly. Shirley went back to his quiet mansion. He sat on the sofa and held Tony's lucky stone. Tony seemed restless, waiting. Someone knocked. It was only a neighbor. As Tony was about to close it, Shirley appeared at the doorway. Tony invited him in for dinner, and with that the story ends here.